right, this is the What Book Bookcast.
What book?
What book? It's the
What book?
What book?
It's the
We should have a what?
theme, like a song or something. We can make up a song. I mean, not right now.
Would we have to sing it ourselves, or would we like?
I think that would be way more fun if we all sang it.
We'd like all write a lyric.
We could do rounds of what book?
What book?
What book?
What? So this is the beginning of our 5-part.
I can't go there with you guys. I'm just saying right now. I couldn't go there.
Marcy just shakes her head.
Okay, so this is the beginning of our summer series reading. Some unknown woman who has a magazine and a network and shows and everything under the sun probably had this idea in a recent magazine about her summer book club reading series. And Tanya brought in the magazine, and while Marcy and I stared at it with hatred, we did see the value.
Not hatred. Not quite.
It was lacking in love, however.
We did see the value in a cool idea for the Bookcast to do a summer reading series. And so this is going to be the intro podcast, Bookcast, where we talk about our 4 choices for the 4 different genres. And just kind of generically what we love about reading in the summer and why we are always reading like crazy people in the summertime. So the four
Genres.
The 4 genres that we decided on were fiction, suspense/mystery, memoir, and sci-fi/fantasy. All of these are ones I wouldn't necessarily read in the summer. For me, I'm just a big fiction reader, and I always read fiction all the time. I really hate reading anything else because I just want to escape in life. Fiction, I guess sci-fi, fantasy, I read that a lot too. But I liked that there was memoirs in there, and I was even open to Marcy's idea of putting romance in there. But we'll do that for maybe a winter series.
I snuck one in.
Oh, you snuck a romance in? A romance memoir? I hope not. Please don't let it be the memoir, because there's a point. Unless it's 50 Shades of Grey, which I'm not sure that I could read.
I don't think that's a memoir.
I own those.
I don't think you guys.
No.
What I think of as a romance and what you guys think of as romances is a bit different. But we'll talk about that when we get to the book choices.
But romance wasn't a book choice.
Correct.
But
Marcy
snuck it in.
Genre is a romance.
She's sneaky. She snuck it in. All right, so let's start with fiction. So that was it has to be in there. And of course, the unnamed lady. Okay, so I totally am down with fiction, especially in the summertime, because I'm mostly just looking for an escape or something that's not too serious. It's easy to pick up and put down over and over again and not feel like you're missing something major. So that's why I totally had to have fiction. Marcy, what was your pick for fiction?
I picked this book called Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I was looking through another famous magazine, and they also had these up-and-coming books for the summer, and this was one of the picks, and it just sounded hilarious. Should I read a little description of it? So this is the description, and this is what got me. Crazy Rich Asians is the outrageously funny debut novel about 3 super rich, pedigreed Chinese families and the gossip, backbiting, and scheming that occurs when the heir to one of the most massive fortunes in Asia brings home his ABC, American-born Chinese, girlfriend to the wedding of the season. So that right there got me. I thought it was going to be an easy read. There's going to be a lot of gossip. There's going to be a lot of crazy people doing crazy things and a lot of nice clothes and nice shoes and nice houses. I thought that would be perfect for a summer book.
And a wedding to boot during wedding season.
Oh,
Yes.
right.
Nice.
Okay.
I like it. Jennifer?
Me, I chose A Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. It's one that we had, it was a former book club book that we read a long time ago.
Everyone's like, what book did you say?
It sounds so familiar.
Yes, and it was I think it was my most favorite book club book we've done. And so that's why I chose it. And really it's about like a magical circus. And there's a love story. So I guess it could be like a fictional romance.
There's definitely an underlying love story in that.
I think that's the core of the story, but we'll talk about it when we get there.
When we get to the fiction series, which is definitely not tonight.
No.
We're not doing fiction tonight. We're definitely doing it at some later date.
Okay.
Tanya, what was your fiction choice?
My fiction choice was a book called Life by Life, written by Kate Atkinson. And the only reason that I picked it was because it had such a great, what do they call it, blurb about the book. And it says, every time Ursula Todd dies, she is born again. Each successive life is an iteration on the last, and we see how Ursula's choices affect her, those around her. Oh, and this is the part that's annoying. And so boldly, the fate of the 20th century world. All right, now it gets back to something good. Most impressive is how Kate Atkinson keeps the complexity of her never mind, it's still boring after that. I just like the idea of it, rather than being like a story about Buddhism and reincarnation, that it's actually about an individual coming back to their life or an iteration of their life after they've died. I just want to see how that plays out. I was like, how does that work? They don't come back as a bug. They come back as somebody else in their life or another version of themselves based on decisions they've made before them. I love that kind of thing. So
I can't wait to hear about it.
I'm all intrigued.
On our future podcast.
Not today.
Okay. So I went back and forth with fiction because I've been reading a lot of sci-fi fantasy lately. So I was trying to find a book that was a pure fiction, and then I figured, well, whatever. It's fiction is fiction is fiction. And it doesn't matter what the setting is. So I picked this book series that my mom, shout out to my mom because she is one of our fans. I picked, she told me about this book series called the Modern Witch series. And the first book is A Modern Witch. And it's by Deborah Geary. So she said, you love the Sookie Stackhouse books. And you like Twilight. And it's kind of got that mixed feel. So pick it up. I could not put this book down. It was very good. And it basically, the main character, she finds out, this is not a spoiler, it's the first chapter. She finds out she's a witch. But she doesn't believe in witchcraft or understand it exists. And it's this cool mix between, like future and kind of this mythical witch series type stuff. So I thought it was cool, light, breezy, easy to read, very short book. So I picked it up. A Modern Witch by Deborah Geary.
Sounds very summery. Mm-hmm. Intriguing choices.
Right. And it takes place in California, which I thought you'd appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the cover, she's clearly dancing at night and by the moonlight.
Very summery. Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Because she wouldn't be doing that.
Please look at my picture.
Exactly.
One of my choices. Also
similar.
Dancing. Yes.
Very similar. Dancing on the cover.
Is not that.
There's no dancing?
Are they making out?
No, it's just this crazy Rich Asians. Crazy.
It's a great title.
Asians.
What else do you need besides that title?
I don't think you need.
Right. I picked the book up and at least read the back. All right. So let's move on to Jennifer.
Okay.
Jennifer, what was your genre that you picked?
I picked suspense / mystery. I don't know how to say this. So, my adult reading, my, cutoff point from, Sweet Valley High and, Babysitter's Club was Stephen King. So, Stephen King holds a very special, I don't know why I'm looking at this, holds a very special place in my heart. And it was looking at the...
Oh, you're looking at the... I thought you were looking at this weird monkey
So Stephen King holds a very special place in my heart. So mystery and suspense novels are very summery. And it's a great topic for the summer. So the book I chose was Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore because... so I went to have my books to my own bookstore one day. And this had a bunch of books on the cover. And it's about this bookstore that's 24-hour bookstore, but so the guy who starts the night shift, and all these weird people come in, and they have books full of code and stuff, and so it sounds like a mystery.
I like it.
So I'm reading it.
What does penumbra mean?
I'm not sure.
I've heard that word before.
I have, and I'm listening to a book now, and it's about Irish history. So I feel like it has something to do with that, but I don't remember.
Penumbra.
I remember hearing the word, and I'm like, what?
A space of partial illumination, as in an eclipse, between the perfect shadow on all sides and the full light.
That doesn't sound Irish. I'm not sure why I heard it in my book about the Irish.
I like it.
That's an interesting name. Who wants to talk about their mystery book next? 'Cause we're all excited about mystery/suspense.
I'm so excited about mystery/suspense because it is my favorite genre of all genres. It doesn't freak me out in any way. I am not scared.
Lying through your teeth right now. It took me a minute. Like, wait a minute.
I don't like.
You just died. What's your book?
I like mystery.
Well, this is mystery/suspense.
It just implies somebody's losing a limb, or there'd be eye gouging of some kind. Somebody's chasing somebody else with a knife.
What kind of books do you read?
What are
That's
you?
crazy.
First of all, what's your book?
Wait, you keep getting on this.
I'm going to tell you because I know what your book is.
I'm talking.
And
I'm talking.
You
It's
didn't
my turn.
like put your toe in. You didn't go into the 3 foot.
Marcy's still talking, and it's my turn. She's just gonna keep going. She's just mad.
To the very end of the spectrum.
And now's where I'm going to start talking again. All right, so I have been forced to read the book Full Dark, No Stars. I'm just kidding.
Okay, do not cut me. You're going to say that. Then I'm going to put in a request to not cut mine.
All right. So one more time. My book is Stephen King's Full Dark, No Stars. And I'm reading it because Marcy is a good friend of mine, and she would never recommend a book to me that was super scary. So I'm looking forward to reading it.
I am
all of
trying
its
to remember the
scary
exact conversation, but I can't. I don't think.
You know what? We have it recorded.
It's on the book.
It happened during the book cast.
Yes. All right, so eerie twists of fate drive the 4 longest stories in King's first collection since Just After Sunset. And they go into each one of them. And they all sound scary as crap.
This is the same man who wrote, like, The Green Mile.
A Good Marriage explores the aftermath of a wife's discovery of her milquetoast husband's sinister secret life. Anyway, there's 4 of those stories total. And I will be reading that, potentially calling Marcy, crying on my pillow. But I will read it.
Texting her in the middle of the night. I cannot sleep.
Thank you for nothing.
That's me. Stephen King, Full Dark, No Stars. I will be brave.
So I'm a sucker for Stephen King, and I almost didn't want to. I almost picked him until Marcy gave you that book, because I figured you can't have mystery suspense and not have a Stephen King book. Even She Who Shall Not Be Named had a Stephen King book in her collection.
May I just say, you are the only person who has brought her up in this entire podcast.
I don't know
I'm
why
just.
we can't.
You can. I just,
She's
I don't.
like one of my favorite people. Just say it.
Me too.
All right.
We should just state that outright. We have like a mild rebellion in our podcast. It's like 50-50.
I know.
It is
Lovers.
50-50.
Oh, we're like
and
Team Oprah.
no, call them haters, because they'll argue the haters.
Oprah.
Oh, wow.
It's
Argue
Oprah.
the
Come on,
haters.
anonymity.
Let's just say there are people who love her more than others.
Who's actually currently and watching her shows on her network right now? Raise your hand.
It's a podcast.
Just to let you know,
Nobody can
it's Marcy who is raising her hand right now.
Would the court please like to reflect? Marcy has her hand up.
Oprah, I am watching your network. Excuse me. Oprah, I am watching your network.
However, if you bring an Oprah magazine to work and say, look what a super cool idea Oprah has, Marcy makes a particular face. And it is not a happy one.
That did happen, though. You and I had the same face.
Right, but it was not
And
because of
high
Oprah, but I'm not going to mention why.
Wait, what was it? If it wasn't Oprah, what was it?
Her books are always really, really sad, so I felt there was just going to be a series upon series of sad books that we would be reading.
And then I would yell at you. Because I don't like reading sad books at all.
We just got through.
Even books that are about relationships but are actually about cancer.
Yes, we just got over that.
Cancer was.
I'm in my bed. Okay, you can't see this, but my eyes, tears, late to work. It was not a good day because of that book. It was fantastic, but it takes a bit of an emotional toll.
Okay, so the book that I picked for mystery suspense was a Dan Brown book because I heart Dan Brown. I cannot stop reading his books once I start. And I'm trying to let my husband get through this book. And he's had it. I'm going to open you to where he's at.
Why did he have it?
He's had it now he got it because he heard it was cool. And then on the dust jacket of this book, it has, it explains about the book and everything. And then Hayden noticed some letters were italic and bold and some were not. And then he figured out there's like a code in here. And he looked up the code online and figured it out. And so he was like, I have to get this book. So Inferno is the book that I picked. It's the most recent Dan Brown book. So that's the book I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So I didn't start reading it. Hopefully I'm going to just take it over and finish reading it because he's not getting anywhere with it. I liked all of his books. I also read The Lost Symbol. That one was really good.
Is that his book? I didn't read that, The Lost Symbol.
Yeah, that's his.
Oh.
It's really good.
Oh,
Then never mind. I haven't read all his books.
I know. I read Angels and Demons and The Da Vinci Code.
Okay, so Harvard professor of symbology Robert Langdon awakens in a hospital in the middle of the night, disoriented and suffering from a head wound. He recalls nothing of the last 36 hours, including how he got there or the origin of the macabre object that his doctors discover hidden in his belongings.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going with that.
Where did you think he was hiding it?
Somewhere in his body.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because they always have bodies with wacky things drawn on them or carved in them in his books. I thought maybe they'd carved him up this time.
Oh.
This guy is...
I like it. I like his symbols. Even Lost Symbol was just a really cool... It's got that historical fiction kind of going on, which I really like about his style of writing. So, Dan Brown, Inferno.
Okay, it's my turn.
Your turn.
So for my mystery suspense, I picked something that I already read. It's called What Angels Fear by C.S. Harris.
That's a good title.
Yes, it is. All of her books have really good titles, whether you like her books or not.
Who
but
was
they
the
have
author?
C.S. Harris. It's
Charlene Harris?
no.
Oh.
I have no idea what her first name is. It is C.S. So
It could be
it's
him,
kind
right?
of like well, let me read the description first. It's 1811, and the threat of revolution haunts the upper classes of King George III's England. Then a beautiful young woman is found savagely murdered on the altar steps of an ancient church near Westminster Abbey. A dueling pistol found at the scene and the damning testimony of a witness both point to one man, Sebastian St. Cyr, Viscount Devlin, a brilliant young nobleman shattered by his experience in the Napoleonic Wars. So it's, to me, kind of like a cross between Sherlock Holmes and Jane Eyre. You have this brooding, rich dude wearing fancy clothes, trying to solve all of these murders. He has, there's star-crossed lovers. There's all kinds of, there's arch enemies, all of that just in her books. And it's totally improbable. Even at the time, there was nobody like this. Nobody got into these situations. And I thought it would be a great book for the summer. To just kind of get lost in people wearing fancy clothes, investigating impossible things.
That's the second time you mentioned clothes in your recommendations.
I don't know why.
Very visual for
Yes.
her.
I just remember because clothing is the part that I page through. Oh, seriously? We're talking about the bodice? I'm paging. Oh, it's satin. Lovely. I'm still making okay.
I won't mention
No.
what's going to happen in the other.
I just think it's cool that you're interested in that part,
Well, yeah, I mean, they write all the parts of it. There's lots of, like, Twilight. Jacob, second book, I'm like, oh my God, stop whining. I'm done listening to Jacob. Come on, get over it. She doesn't like you. I mean, I just kept paging through. But
really
Jennifer
harsh.
obviously loved that part.
Obviously, I'm Team Jacob all the way. Because it just makes more sense.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple things I want to say. That I did want to say I snuck in kind of a romance.
What?
Because this is kind of what I think of a romance. I'm not talking about the books, although, they're I'm not going to dog them out, with the naked, half-naked dudes, with the six-pack. Just that's all you see. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about these, even Twilight. To me, Twilight is a romance. I mean, the central part of that book is the relationship between this girl and this boy. It just happens to be that they're vampires, but it is, to me, it is a true romance in every sense of the word. So.
I'm with you. Hey, and just so you know, C.S. Harris is the pseudonym for Candace Proctor. She also writes under C.S. Graham.
Why?
Oh, okay.
Why would you do that?
Call Candace and ask her.
It's
I'm not
crazy,
sure.
Candace.
She probably
So-
writes under other genres, and so a lot of authors will do that. I'm stuck in this one, so now I'm
Okay.
going to write in another genre, but as this, and then I'm going to do another genre. as
I
that.
have my pen name already for my fantasy book.
Mhm.
But I'm going to use my real name for the, more true stories.
See? There you go.
But to be fair, the pen name came up because there is already at least an author.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, she
Just
writes
like acting.
I think she does
There's a-
romances or something.
No, it's just like acting. Like you can't have
Oh,
somebody
right.
else's registered name if they're in the guild.
So, speaking of romances, I thought romance was one of our topics, so I bought a romance. And in my mind, even though I looked at the cover, I was like, oh, the guy's totally got no shirt on in the cover, right? It's part of the American Romance series. It is a Harlequin. It's called Sweet Home Colorado.
It's,
And the guy's totally wearing a shirt.
Aww.
Yes. I was like,
Give
wait
it
a
back.
minute.
but he's got a tool
Wait a
belt.
minute, wait a minute,
Got a
wait a
tool
minute.
belt.
You
It's
can't have a tool belt
O'Malley
and no
men.
shirt, or you
That
won't be
means
able
that
to.
there's a series of stories about this family.
And they're Irish?
This looks
O'Malley.
very close to the American Girl doll
It does,
logo.
actually.
The type. Are you sure it's not a man American doll?
It
that
says
would be
Harlequin.
bad.
Harlequin at the top. I see Harlequin. But he does have a tool belt, so that helps.
All right,
Those
so
O'Malley
we all
men.
have our suspenses,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Suspense.
All right, Tanya,
Fiction.
you're up next.
Fiction, check. Suspense, check. All right, so I totally went for the memoir genre. I don't know why. I just love books that are about what a person remembers as important about their life, or what they think might be valuable to share with someone else, or even just like how an author scrambles to try to make their story make sense to someone else. Like you can almost hear them reaching in their mind as they write it for, this will only make sense if I say it this way. It has to have this particular part. I love how honest people can be in it. I love how like people write, especially memoirs, not as like a way of confession, but almost like a way of, this is what was really going on when I was just smiling through the horror that was my actual life at that moment. I just love it. I don't know why it's so meaningful to me that it is real, or their version of real. I mean, obviously you can never know for sure how, you can always argue the point of how well they remember it and blah, blah, blah. I think, God, who's that really famous lady?
Oprah.
Close. Victoria, no, Violet Eyes. Who's that lady? She's passed away.
Oh,
recently.
I read that
Taylor.
book. That was really good.
Yes. Say her name
Elizabeth
again?
Taylor.
Elizabeth Taylor. I kept saying Taylor Swift. Like it was
No. I am talking about a horror movie, Violet Eyes. As soon as I answered, and I was like, oh, I read that book, I went, wait a minute.
No.
Why would she be talking about a horror book about somebody with an eye transplant?
Oh, no.
Probably not what she's talking about.
No, but there were,
Sounds like an interesting book.
like they were saying that like she was talking about in one of her books about some affair that her husband had with somebody else. There was some type of conversation and people were like, how can she remember the details so well? And I'm fascinated by like why people remember certain parts of their life so clearly, but they don't remember, what they had for breakfast. So I love all of that. And I always feel like I learned something from a memoir. So anyway, that's why I picked memoirs. Probably very boring in the retelling of it, but I personally love them. So the one that I picked is it's called The Liars Club by Mary Carr. And the reason I picked this, well, there were two reasons really. The first one is that when I was looking at Amazon.com, it was the first one that popped up, which is weird.
Memoir.
Memoir, yeah. But the other reason I picked it is because on my family website, like a year or two ago, all they were talking about was Mary Carr's book and how she's coming out with a new book. And I finally asked them, like, who the heck's Mary Carr? I don't know Mary Carr. Is she like some weird distant cousin who I just never heard of? And I found out that she grew up with my dad in Groves, Texas. And now she's like their like claim to fame kind of. So I want to check out who this person is that grew up with my dad so many years ago. Because
Do you think he's in it?
No, he's not in it. But people who were with him in his childhood are in it, and it's a part of their like legacy of the town, kind of. So I'm gonna check it out.
Okay, I'll go next. So I was going back and forth with memoirs. So my sister had suggested to me a while ago to read the Molly Ringwald memoir, and I really dig her, and I started reading it. It was good, and I thought it'd be a good cheater book because I already read half of it, just to make sure that I could get through it. But then I was at the bookstore, and I saw Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me? And Other Concerns. And I'm not kidding you. I think this a lot.
Yeah.
This title, I think it a lot.
Really?
Yes. So Mindy Kaling. So I really like her in The Office. I really like her in her new show, which I'm hoping didn't get canceled. So I thought it'd be cool to send her a little money and buy her book.
I'm sure she appreciates all that money.
And she's supposed to be really funny, so I'm excited to read this one.
For book club, we read Tina Fey's book and Bossy Pants, and it was hilarious.
That's what that
It was
picture on the
so
back
good.
reminds me of.
It was so funny. So I had to, I thought it'd be good to do a comedian again because I'm not really into memoirs, but I thought this would be a good thing. All right, it doesn't really explain it. I guess author.
Very funny. According to the Boston Globe.
Yes, very funny. It says the author as child star of the TLC series Androgynous Kids and Puppets, the less successful predecessor of Toddlers and Tiaras. That's what this little tagline is on this book. So, is everyone hanging out without me? And other
I'm going to get
concerns.
that. I'm definitely reading that. Starring it. Star.
Well, I appreciate you starring one of my
No
books.
problem.
Did you start 2 of mine so far? I think you started Inferno, didn't you?
Oh, I am going to read Inferno. I already have A Modern Witch.
One thing I love about Jennifer is she will read anything.
I love a recommendation.
Tell her, you know
Sure.
what? The newest edition of the encyclopedia, CA
So
through
awesome.
CF. It's great.
I could not put it down. Crocodiles. Oh my gosh, it was so scary.
Jennifer is kind of the reason that we're doing bookcasting at all.
That's
True.
a really good point.
Yeah.
Yay, me.
We should have added this to the origin story.
We did.
Did we talk about Jennifer?
We did.
All right. Well, maybe if I'd cut it already, I would know. Marcy?
Okay, so I picked something called A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius by Dave Eggers. And I picked it out because it had a really funny title.
I don't think it's supposed to be funny.
It's
I think
not.
it is.
I think it's
no,
very
supposed to be
serious.
Yeah, I think, well, it has heartbreaking, you know my rules. I did break it. If it has heartbreaking, I usually avoid it because it means I'm going to be crying.
Yeah.
Or it's like heartwarming is also another.
Dave Eggers, is he the guy who wrote... Never mind, keep going.
All right, so anyway, here's the synopsis. A Heartbreaking Work of Staggering Genius is the moving memoir of a college senior who, in the space of 5 weeks, loses both of his parents to cancer. Darn it! I didn't realize! And inherits his 8-year-old brother.
Not starring that.
Here is an exhilarating
cancer.
book that managed to be simultaneously hilarious and wildly inventive, as well as deeply heartfelt. So all I saw was hilarious and wildly inventive, and I picked it.
That's what happens when you skim.
Oh, I'm not sure what I want to do now.
You need to
Well,
read the
finish
end. And then, yeah.
He
No, I'll read
survived
the first.
to write the
Okay,
book.
so I'm going to tell you a secret about myself. I have literally read thousands of books. They've checked off as read. I have a little secret. What I consider read is, of course, reading the full book, but also reading the first 2, maybe 3 chapters, and then going to the end and reading the book.
That's not really reading.
It's reading.
At all.
I can tell you the whole synopsis. I got it. So this might be one of those situations. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to do it. So that's my pick for memoirs.
Okay.
Is
A
it memoirs? Memoirs? What?
Memoir.
I think we should be very fancy pants about it. Called memoir. 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 My
I don't know if I
memoir.
can do that with my accent. Memoir.
It sounds wrong when you say it.
It's a little
If you can
bit.
see
It
what
sounds a
you look
little
like.
bit like you might want to throw up.
I did a little bit. The whole title is A Heartbreaking
Detroit.
Work of Staggering Genius.
I just like the staggering
whole-
genius.
that's the whole
I
title,
love
though.
that. I know.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to try it. I
did
might be
nothing.
surprised.
Okay. That I feel is awesome.
Marcy
also
obviously
wonderful.
picking her books just on title.
It's a great
That's why I
choice.
picked my memoir.
It's a
Crazy
brave choice.
Asian.
Wait a minute. Isn't that how we pick them? I would walk
do
through a
by
bookstore when there were still bookstores. That was one of the things that you did was you walk through. What's this title look like? You pull it out. The picture. Even if it looked good on the jacket, if the picture wasn't right or the title looked kind of funny, you put it back. I'm just doing what we all do. Yeah. So we'll see.
She's just admitting it more honestly.
Well, I picked my memoir according to the title. My memoir. Jenny Lawson, Let's Pretend This Never Happened, a mostly true memoir. Because a lot of my life is like that. Let's just pretend this didn't happen. Let's try to forget about that.
I almost picked that. That's actually on my bedside table.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Well, I'm kind of glad I picked this.
And there's a cute little mouse with a little mouse on it.
Mm-hmm.
So who's Jenny Lawson?
I have no idea. I just found it on the Kindle. Okay. I was going to do a different one, but then I was told it had to be not just like a nonfiction. Had to stick with the memoir theme, so I did.
Memoir.
So that was off the cuff, but I'd seen that before, and I did want to read it. It looked familiar, so I'm not sad about it.
All right.
Plus, I like ones that are funny. I like when people can laugh at themselves.
Like Carol Burnett. They've got amazing memoirs out there. I could, if I had to pick one genre to read for the rest of my life, I could happily read memoirs for the rest of my life.
I could not do that. I don't know about that.
I could.
So I think that brings us down to our last genre.
Oh.
So that's Marcy. That's your genre.
Okay, so the last one is sci-fi fantasy. And just to tell you a little, this is, I would say, probably my favorite genre. I just like how, and we've talked about this before, I just like how you can kind of explore all of these different emotions and themes, but in a way that's not as, I guess, emotional as real life. You know, you can explore all of these different, you know, like slavery or racism and all of this thing, but put it on a different world, and you can take that to, you know, someplace even further than what you see in real life. I just love that about the genre. I like the fables and how you have these huge themes and you know, it's just endlessly fascinating to me. Even, you know, the like Star Trek books or something like that that are like popcorn to the really deep ones that take forever to get through.
That's so funny, because that is not why I read sci-fi fantasy at all.
Really?
I always feel like when I'm reading sci-fi and fantasy that there's some underlying subplot that I'm just not getting because I'm reading it too superficially. But I love it. I love the superficial. This is what you're telling me. The blue guy hates the short yellow guy. Got it. Has nothing to do with anything more serious than that.
I think that
short yellow guy, down with you.
I think that it always starts with a question. Like an author's, maybe he or she was sitting there with some friends, and they were like, "What if this? What if the world was like this? What if this happened?" And somebody wrote a book about that. And that's really one of the few places where you can, what if there was spaceship? What if I think I read this one series about this. It was totally not me. It was all, actually, let's not get into that. Let me get into my book. That is a whole other podcast. All right, so anyway, I picked a book by one of my favorite authors. Anything he writes, I will just immediately get. I don't even have to see the title or the picture. And it is called The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. And the description is a brilliantly imaginative and poignant fairy tale from the modern master of wonder and terror. The bewitching tale of mystery and survival and memory and magic. So that's kind of like the description of the book. And it really didn't matter what the description was. I was going to get it and I was going to read it. And I'm going to make you guys read it too.
Well, I really liked the other Neil Gaiman book you wrote. And he co-authored a book with Terry Pratchett, who I love, called Good Omens.
Good Omens, yeah.
So good. So good. That was like my first Terry Pratchett book. Yeah, Neil Gaiman.
All right, so who's next?
Jennifer?
I can go next. I'm going to do Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury.
Oh, I think I've read
I've never read it. I've always wanted to. I even went so far as to buy it, and then my cousin came over and raided my bookshelves like she normally does. So now I don't have it anymore. So I bought I was reading last night as I was preparing to talk about The Night Circus because it had been a while and I didn't have the book, so I had to look it up on Wikipedia. But it said that Something Wicked This Way Comes is kind of in that same vein, and I don't know if they said that it was she used it as inspiration or something like that. I don't know if she did or if it's just kind of like it, but I'm going to read it because it looks interesting. And I think, isn't he the guy that did like Fahrenheit, whatever? So he's like a famous guy.
A classic.
It's a classic.
1962.
I like the title.
I like it too.
And if it's got anything to do with the Night Circus, I'm down because I love that book. I read a blog with the author who did the Night Circus, and she had a picture of her cat on like her shelves in her books, and I like blew it up, and I'm like trying to see all the books in her bookshelves. That's how I started reading. I bought a bunch of those books because I was like, this woman's awesome. I wanted to read everything she's ever read, ever.
Did she have any books with dudes?
Not that I saw, but those might have been like by her nightstand. I don't know.
Yeah, Fahrenheit 451. 451.
Okay. That was my book. I'm excited about it. Mm-hmm.
So for me, mine, this was where I feel like I consciously chose to step out of meaningful reading.
That's okay to do sometimes. Nobody's going to knock it. Have you listened to our choices?
chose. I sometimes I read specifically to learn. It's like you open your heart and you're like, what do I have to learn? Let's learn something new. And sometimes it's just like Lisa said. Like you're like, and I exit my life and enter someone else's life. So I picked the Mind Readers something. I'll write down. Oh, the Mind Readers Club.
Oh.
Mind Readers Club by Lori Brighton. It is, full disclosure, written for people above the age of 14. So,
Okay.
Just barely above the age of 14?
just so you know,
So Twilight is young adult.
that's why I picked it. Because it had that same kind of theme. And I swear to you, when I read the description of it, my mind immediately clicked to Twilight and just what a total escape that was. I was like, ooh, that's a summer read to me. Everything else is fun or interesting. This one is the one that's like, oh, summer. And now I'm at the beach and I'm reading completely inconsequential things that are interesting and I can put down.
Well, Lori Brighton.
Lori Brighton.
Okay.
Mind Readers Club, we're sure that's the name.
Now I'm going to look at that. Because I just wrote down the Mind Readers and I'm going to
That
go
was
back.
lazy.
And I lost it. And I lost it on my tab, so I'm going back. I will come back to it. You go ahead, Lisa.
So, sci-fi fantasy, one of my favorite genres, recently. And I was going through all of the books that I've read. What is it?
The Mind Readers.
Oh, it is just the
okay.
Mind Readers.
I'm not lazy. I
So,
just put
Jennifer,
an apostrophe.
It wasn't
We
apostrophe
need
anything.
an apology
I'm
over
sorry, Tanya.
All right.
But Tanya's the one who said
We just
that
wanna
she
make
should have
sure
written
that-
that down. That's not my fault.
I must have quit writing stuff down.
Sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, so sci-fi fantasy, I've been reading a lot of them lately, and I wasn't sure which to pick, right? Because I could pick something new, I could pick something I've read before, and I had just finished reading Ender's Game, and I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I couldn't stop reading it. And every person I've told that I read Ender's Game, they're like, that book is awesome. You need to read Ender's Shadow. Which is the same time frame as Ender's Game, except it follows one of the bit players, Bean in the books. And he's like friends with Ender, but Ender's like the main guy in Ender's Game, obviously. Ender's Shadow, Bean, little guy, Bean. And it's the same timeline, but it's a completely different path. And Orson Scott Card is the writer. And he has the same world, and he has these multiple paths going, and the characters don't necessarily reconnect. And Ender's Shadow goes down this kind of religious subtext mode, because he, after killing an entire race of civilization, he then kind of becomes the speaker of the dead, and it's about him making sure people's lives are heard and their stories are remembered and stuff. But Ender's Shadow is more in the vein of the first Ender's Game book, so I hear. And so I'm excited to read it, and I hear Bean is very entertaining.
I love Bean. I love those books. That's my favorite offshoot. I think there's only two. There's like Ender and Bean, but I love Bean more. So I'm excited to reread it.
It's a great concept too. I mean, a lot of fan fiction ends up in that arena where like they take whatever the main characters are and they decide to like create a slightly different version of it, or they pick one character and they just run through the entire story as if only that character's point of view is the one that was being portrayed. It totally adds a really cool element to the story.
I saw this thing on Pinterest the other day, and it was
Don't you mean Pinterest?
Pinterest the other day. I'm not sure it's copyrighted, but that's okay. And it was the Harry Potter novels, as if Draco Malfoy was the main character.
Yes, exactly what I'm talking about.
And it was like book 1 was Draco starts school and has no friends. Book 2 is everyone thinks Draco's cool, but he's not. Book 3 is was Draco even in this book? Book 4 was Draco's not cool enough to know anyone. And then I don't remember what the next couple were, but the last one was Draco realizes this whole series he's been a douche. So I thought it was really cool. Good little offshoot there.
Dude, you felt sorry for Draco in that last book.
I did not.
I did. He almost died in the Room of Requirement.
I don't remember all that. I just remember being a douche.
He
He's
was a
like,
douche.
whatever, Draco.
I definitely felt bad for him in the last 2 books because I feel like he realized, and I don't think he was ever 100% on board, especially when his dad started deconstructing. It showed him who his dad really was, and he's like, ooh, I don't want to be that.
And then he was sucked in. He was already being sucked into Voldemort's plan.
Yeah.
He had no way out.
So I only read it once, and I only saw the movie once. Does that make me a bad fan? I don't remember any of that.
You don't remember the Room of Requirement and the fire? I love the Room of Requirement, but we're segueing off into a bad place right now.
To bring it back, I'm very excited because the movie coming out in November, Ender's Game, combines Ender's Game and Ender's Shadow. So
Really?
It's really cool. Yeah.
Really?
Like a mixture.
Interesting. So one
I'm
of
gonna
our
read both.
ideas for our future book club is actually to have a little book cast on books that have been made into movies and kind of discuss that. And I think that'll actually be a really good segue into that.
I already have Ender's Game. I gotta get Ender's Shadow.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the beginning of our summer series. Now I think what's left to us is to start reading our books and each other's books. Don't feel any pressure to read all of them, but I think it's cool just hearing the books that you guys picked.
Yeah, totally.
And we'll reconvene, and the first genre we're going to go over is fiction.
And for any of our listeners who want to read along with us, we would love to hear what you guys think about any of the stories.
Feel free to comment on this podcast.
Yes. And like as many times as you can.
Right.
And tell your friends. We want to go viral, seriously.
Dude, we have 12 listeners, so we're looking for 14.
Start.
Yes, we're looking for 14.
That could be 3. I think we visited our site. But that's okay.
Right.
Totally fine with that. We're
Yeah.
shamelessly taking it.
We have to
Yes,
start
we
somewhere.
are.
All right, so I'm Lisa.
I'm Marcy.
Jennifer.
I'm Tanya.
This